Okay, go right ahead. Yep, go right ahead. All right, super excited to be here. Today we're going to talk about positioning your offers because rich entrepreneurs do not just create offers, they position offers. They position offers. And today we're going to talk about how you actually position your actual offers. All right, let's get started. Because here's the thing, most entrepreneurs do not stay broke because they do not have an irresistible offer. They stay broke because their offer does not feel easy to buy. They have something valuable, something helpful, something real, but the market does not feel it. Why? Because value not positioned right is value not paid. Let me repeat that. Value not positioned right is value not paid. A lot of entrepreneurs think if the offer is good enough, people will buy. If I just explain it better, they will get it. If I just lower the price, more people will say yes. No, my friends, the problem is not the existence of the offer. The problem is the positioning of the offer because people do not buy what you mean. They buy according to what they perceive, right? Imagine two entrepreneurs who are chefs, both selling something equally valuable, right? They are both at a networking event, and people start asking, "What do you do?" Right? The first chef says, "I come to people's houses and cook them dinner." That's the first chef. The second chef says, "You know how families barely eat together anymore? And when they do, they usually are not eating healthy. I come into people's homes and cook healthy meals that families can enjoy together." The second chef sells because the second chef positioned their offer so the buyer can see and feel it. They positioned the problem, the cost of staying stuck, the payoff that's on the other side, and why it matters right now to the audience. Same value, right? Different perception, different results. One gets ignored, the other gets bought. And that's why today we're going to talk about how the rich build riches. They know how to position their offer so it feels easy to buy. A great offer is not enough by itself. If you do not know how to position it correctly, people will not see the value, feel the urgency, or understand why they should buy now. Rich entrepreneurs do not just create offers, they position offers. They know how to communicate value, frame the problem, elevate the payoff, reduce friction, and make the right buyer feel like the offer is an obvious yes. When your offer is positioned right, sales gets easier. The first chef says they tell you what they do, but it does not make you feel why it matters. The second chef did not just describe the service, they positioned the value. That is what rich entrepreneurs do. They do not just tell people what they sell, they help people see why it matters. When your offer is positioned right, sales gets easier. When the positioning is weak, even a strong offer struggles. When the positioning is strong, the right buyer starts saying yes. That makes sense, right? They start saying that is exactly what I need. That this is for me, right? The strategy is very, very simple. Do not just describe the offer, position the offer. In the chef example, the first chef described the task. The second chef positioned the transformation. That is the strategy. Before you try to sell your offer, ask, what is the real problem this solves? What is the emotional pain that behind that problem, right? What is the payoff on the other side, right? Who is this really for? Why should this matter to them right now? Because the market does not reward the offer that is explained the most. It rewards the offer that is felt the most clearly because people do not buy the task, they buy the transformation behind the task. Again, welcome everyone to the Anywhere Entrepreneur Live. We are all about the freedompreneur way, the freedom to live, to work, to earn from anywhere. And here's the key. It's not enough to just have an offer. You must master how to position your offer so that the right people see it, feel it, and say yes. Because mastering positioning is what's needed to achieve the freedompreneur way. Last live, we were actually in Da Nang, Vietnam, and we talked about why some entrepreneurs stay broke. They don't know who they're actually selling to. So if you have not watched that, I would highly recommend watching that live stream that we actually did. We talked about who's your ideal client, right? Who your ideal client really is, the 5 stages of brand awareness. We use Eugene Schwartz's book called Breakthrough Advertising as an example of this to understand, to meet your clients where they're actually at. And we talked about how the buyer's stage changes your message that they need to actually hear, right? Because once you know who you're actually selling to, the next question becomes, how do you position your offer so it feels easy to buy? That is what today is about. And this live, I'm actually in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, which is formerly obviously known as Saigon. And by the end of this live, I want you to know exactly what offer positioning really is, why perceived value matters more than your private opinion of your offer, and how to position an offer so the right buyer sees it as relevant, as valuable, urgent, and easy to say yes to. Because when the offer is positioned right, selling gets cleaner. And when selling gets cleaner, cash flow gets stronger. So if you're ready to make your offer feel easy to buy, and if you're here live with us, drop offer in the comment section. Or if you're watching this in the future, drop offer in the comment section so that we know, that you're here. And if you're here live or you're watching this in the future as well, really drop where you're actually tuning from. We really care to understand where our audience is actually tuning in from, so we know where you're actually at and really what's going on with you. And most importantly, if we can figure out how to help you close the gap between where you are to where you want to be, that's really the most interested that we are in terms of how to help you actually do that. So drop in the comment section where you're actually tuning in from. Okay, so now before I teach this, let's talk about your resistance to this, right? To what I am going to be sharing with you, because most entrepreneurs do not want to hear that the issue may not be your offer itself. You would rather believe people just do not get it. The audience is cheap. Nobody wants to invest. The market is saturated. People do not value quality. Maybe, but sometimes the truth is a lot simpler than that. Sometimes the offer is good, but the positioning is weak. That is where people resist. Because if positioning is the problem, now you have to face some uncomfortable questions. Is the problem clear enough? Is the payoff compelling enough? Is the value visible enough? Is the offer framed for the buyer or for your own preferences? Is it easy for the right person to understand why this matters now? So those questions are very, very uncomfortable, because it means that the market may not be rejecting your value. It may be misunderstanding your value, and the stakes are high, my friends. If your positioning is weak, you will attract weak fit buyers, get a lot of interest, but little action, feel like you're always explaining too much, lower prices when price is not the real issue, and stay frustrated because people are not seeing what the offer can do. So positioning matters, because rich entrepreneurs do not just have value. They know how to make value visible and position value powerful. So again, last slide, we talked about why some entrepreneurs stay broke. They don't know who they're actually selling to. So last live was about the person, but this live is about the offer that's in front of that person. Because knowing the buyer is one thing, knowing how to frame the offer for that buyer is another. That is what today is about, and that's why today, this conversation actually matters. So let me give you the framework for today. Offer positioning is how you make the right buyer see the offer as relevant, valuable, urgent, differentiated from what's in the marketplace, and easy to say yes to. That means that positioning is not just about what the offer is, it is about how the offer is understood, right? Today, I want to walk you through 5 parts of strong positioning. The very first one is the problem, second is the payoff, third is the person, fourth is the process, and then fifth is the price in the context of value. The price in the context of value. When those 5 get positioned correctly, the offer starts feeling clear. And when the offer feels clear, the sales feels easier. So let's start with the very first part. Position the problem clearly. If the problem is vague, the offer will feel vague, right? A lot of entrepreneurs say things like, I help people grow, or I help people become better. I help people level up. I help people transform. That sounds nice, but it does not create urgency. Why? Because buyers do not pay for vague improvement. They pay to solve painful, specific problems, right? They pay to get out of something that is costing them money, time, peace, confidence, freedom, momentum. So the first part of positioning is clarity around the problem. You have to ask, what is wrong right now? What is frustrating them right now? What is keeping them stuck right now? What is the problem costing them if they do nothing about it? Because when the problem is unclear, the buyer stays passive. But when the problem is clear, specific, and painful, especially if you remind them of it, the buyer starts leaning in. That is when they say, yes, that's me. That is exactly what I'm dealing with. I need to fix that, and I need to fix it right now, right? So that is the first threshold of your own control. You stop talking in broad, polished language, and you start naming the real pain in a way the buyer can actually feel it, right? Because the clearer the problem, the stronger the positioning. So think about this. Somebody who says, I help families eat better. It sounds nice, right? But it is too broad. Now imagine they say something like this. Most families are busy, overwhelmed, and too exhausted to cook healthy meals during the week. So they keep defaulting to takeout, spending too much money, and feeling guilty that they are not taking care of their health. I help fix that. Now the problem is clear. Now the buyer does not just hear a service, they feel seen. Or even in business, think about the difference between saying, I help entrepreneurs grow their businesses, right? Versus saying, I help entrepreneurs who are stuck at inconsistent income, build a simple high value offer, get clients consistently, and stop stressing every single month about where the money is going to come from, right? Same category, different clarity, different urgency, different power, right? That is the point. When you name the problem clearly, the right buyer feels understood. They feel seen, they feel heard, and people buy faster when they feel understood, right? So here's the second part. That was the first. Um, Position the payoff clearly, right? After you position the problem, now you have to position the payoff clearly. There's something that they want, right? A relationship is relationship in business is no different than a relationship as a person, right? The very first thing you got to know is what is it that they want, and our job is to give them what they want, is to get them what they want, right? The buyer is not just buying what they get out of, they're buying what they actually get into, the relationship that they actually get into. Again, I'm going to repeat that. The buyer is not just buying what they get out of, what they're trying to get out of, they're buying what they actually get into as well, the relationship, right? That is very, very important because most people do not just want relief from pain. They want a better future, right? They want to move away from pain as fast as possible, but they want to, head to the destination. They want to move towards the pleasure also as fast as possible. And they got to see what that pleasure future actually looks like, right? They want more money, they want more clarity, more peace, more confidence, more leverage, more freedom, more growth. So the payoff must feel real, specific, and most importantly, desirable, not general, not abstract, not better. Better is weak, specific is strong. The buyer needs to be able to see what if what life actually looks like after the problem is solved. What changes for them, what becomes easier, what becomes possible, what they get to experience on the other side. People buy the emotions that are on the other side, that transformation, right? Because of the result that they actually got. So, what is the payoff? Because once you stop describing the offer generally and start positioning the payoff precisely, the buyer starts to feel something, right? They start to picture it. They start to imagine it, right? That would be me. That is what I want. That is the result I've actually been looking for, right? That is what makes the offer strong. People do not buy an offer because it exists. They buy an offer because they can see themselves in the problem and in the payoff. Okay, let me repeat that. They buy an offer because they can see themselves in the problem and in the payoff. People do not buy because they understand, they buy because they feel understood. And if the problem is fuzzy and the payoff is weak, your offer will feel easy to ignore. Think about the difference between a fitness coach saying, I help women get healthier. That again, that sounds fine, but again, it's too broad, right? The payoff is way too broad. Now imagine if the fitness coach says, I help busy moms lose the extra 20 pounds, get their energy back, feel confident in their clothes again, get their before birth body back, right? And stop looking in the mirror feeling frustrated every morning. Now the payoff is clear. Now it is not just health, now it's more energy, more confidence, a better morning, a better relationship with themselves and others, right? That buyer can feel that, right? Or even in your world, the difference between saying, um, I help entrepreneurs build their businesses versus saying, I help entrepreneurs build a business that gives them consistent income, more time with their family, more freedom to travel, and a life they do not need a vacation from, right? That is the payoff. So that's what me and Phyllis do, right? So it's very, very specific in terms of the payoff that we help people achieve, right? We help entrepreneurs build a business that gives them consistent income, more time with their family, more freedom to travel, and a life they do not need a vacation from. That is our payoff, right? As an example, right? That is something people can see. That is something people, can want. People can feel that, and that is the point here today. When the payoff is clear, the right buyer does not just understand the offer; they start desiring the future it actually gives them. So that's the second part. Now the third part is positioning the offer for the right person. Positioning the offer for the right person. Not every offer is for every person, right? Your job is to attract the right person, and your job, as far as marketing, is to repel the wrong person, repel the people that you desire not to work with, and attract the people that you actually desire to work with. That is actually marketing. And um, when you actually start looking at that the offer is not for everyone, that is not a sign of weakness. That is what makes an offer strong. The more clear you define who the offer is for, who it is not for, what stage that person is in, because you're meeting them where they're actually at, what level they are actually at, what they already believe, what they are ready for, right? What they want and what they're actually ready for. The easier it becomes for the right person to self identify. And that's why this matters. Because when the wrong people are seeing the offer feels weak. Why? Because the wrong person reads it and thinks, this is not for me. I do not need this. This sounds too advanced. This sounds too basic. This does not fit where I'm actually at, right? But when the right person sees it, the offer feels sharp. They read it and think, this is me. That's actually me. That's for me. This is exactly where I am actually at. This is exactly what I need next. This sounds like it was made for me, right? And that is the goal. Why you position it for the right person, right? Not to make everybody interested, to make the right person feel identified. Because the more precise you are, the more powerful the offer actually becomes. When you try to make an offer for everyone, it becomes too broad to move anyone deeply towards you, right? But when you make the offer for the right person at the right stage, the buyer feels understood and the offer starts feeling relevant to them. And relevancy is what creates movement. So think about this. The difference between saying, I help entrepreneurs grow, again, that's broad, that could mean anything. A beginner could hear it, right? A seven-figure business owner could hear it. Someone who wants passive income could hear it. Somebody who wants a coaching business could hear it. Right now, compare that same niche, but it's said differently. I help coaches, consultants, and service providers who are already making money, but are stuck between inconsistent income and their first six six figure year, build a high value offer, get more clients, and create more freedom, right? Now the right person can hear themselves in that and says, yes, I want to get up to the seven figure mark, right? I'm stuck in the multi six figure mark and I want to get to seven figures, but I want to do it in a way where it creates freedom, right? And that my income is actually consistent as well, right? Right? And I want to figure out how to get an endless flow of clients, and that getting more clients means also getting consistent clients without sacrificing my life, my relationship, my family, right? Without sacrificing myself. Now the right person can hear themselves in that message because it's positioned to the right person. That offer is no longer for entrepreneurs. It is for specific kind of entrepreneur at a specific stage with a specific problem who wants a specific outcome. That is why it gets stronger when you position the offer for the right person. Or even in personal life, think about a doctor, right? You would not go to a general doctor for heart surgery. Why? Right? Because when the problem is specific, you want a specialist, right? You want a specialist. The same truth is true in business. The right buyer is looking for someone who understands their specific stage, their specific pain, and the specific result that they want. That is the point here. When the right person sees the offer, it feels sharp. When the wrong person sees it, it feels weak. So the goal is not broad appeal. The goal is precise relevance, right? The goal is precise relevance. That is the third part. All right, so now let's dive into the fourth part. The fourth part is position the process so it feels credible. Position the process so it feels credible. A lot of people can talk about the payoff. Fewer can talk about the path, and that's why this actual fourth part really matters, because if the buyer does not understand how you can help them get the results, the offer can start to feel risky, right? If they do not understand how you help them get the result, the path, the process, the offer can start to feel risky. Not because the result is not desirable, they want that result, but because the path does not feel believable, right? They do not need every detail, they do not need the whole blueprint, but they do need confidence that there is a process, right? They need to feel like this is thought through, right? This is not random. This is not guesswork. This person has a real way of helping me get there. That process might be a framework, it might be a sequence, it might be a method, it might be a roadmap, it might be a challenge, it might be a proven path. It doesn't matter, because when the buyer can see the path, the offer starts to feel safer. And when the offer feels safer, trust rises. That is what credibility actually does, right? It lowers the fear of, what if this does not work? What if this is just hype? What if I buy and still do not know what to do next? What if this is too vague to help me? So here's your test in this. Can you explain your offer simply? Can you show why it is for this buyer specifically? Can you make the path feel believable? Can you create certainty without over explaining, right? Those are the questions that really matters. Your allies in this are specificity, clarity, proof, credibility, clear messaging, simple frameworks, clear examples, client results. Those are your allies. Your enemies in this is vague promises, overcomplication, trying to sound smart instead of clear, making the offer for everyone, talking too much about features and not enough about benefits and transformation, assuming the buyer will connect the dots on their own. Those are your enemies because the truth is very, very simple. Confused buyers do not convert. And a great offer, even badly positioned, will still feel average. A great offer, badly positioned, will still feel average. Confused minds do not buy, right? Think about the difference between a coach saying, I help people scale their business. Again, that sounds exciting, but it also sounds vague. Now compare that to a coach saying, I help coaches and service providers scale by first identifying their high value offer, then simplifying their message, then building a lead generation system, and then moving those leads into a sales process that can convert consistently. Now the buyer can feel a path. They may not know every detail yet, but they know that there is a process, right? And that changes how the offer feels. Or think about this in a much more personal way. Um, if you needed to lose, let's say, 30 pounds, and one trainer said, I can get you in shape. But another trainer said, first, we clean up your nutrition, then we build a simple strength plan, then we create a routine you can actually stick to for 90 days. Who feels more credible, right? The second one. Why? Because the result is not just attractive, the path feels believable, right? And that is the point. People trust the payoff more when they can see a credible path to actually get there, okay? So now let's get to the fifth and final part. Position the price in the context of value. Position the price in the context of value. This is where many entrepreneurs lose the sale, not because the price is wrong, but because the value was never made clear enough before the price was introduced. So they say the number, the buyer hesitates, and then they assume it must be too expensive. Not always. Buyers do not decide price in a vacuum. They decide price in comparison to the problem, the payoff, the cost of staying the same, the speed of the solution, the certainty of the process, and the trust they feel in you. That is what shapes the way price feels, because price is never just a number. Price is a meaning making moment. Again, let me repeat that. Price is a meaning making moment. If the buyer does not clearly see what this is costing them right now, what the future cost of staying stuck looks like, what the new result is worth, and why your offer shortens the path, then the price will feel heavy. If you can get all those clear, then it's easier for them to say yes, right? That is where the ordeal gets exposed. A lot of entrepreneurs secretly believe if the offer is expensive, people will run. No, my friends, people do not automatically run from expensive offers. People run from unclear ones. They run when the value feels foggy. They run when the result feels uncertain. They run when the path does not feel credible. They run when the investment feels bigger than the transformation. Let me repeat that last one. They run when the investment feels bigger than the transformation. So the goal is not to make the offer cheaper. The goal is to make the value clearer, not manipulative, just honest, right? Because if the buyer can clearly see the cost of the current problem, the value of the future payoff, the speed of getting there faster, and the confidence that your offer can help them get there, then the investment starts feeling lighter, right? This is what strong positioning actually does. It puts price in the right context because price feels heavy when value feels hidden. Price feels heavy when value feels hidden. Think about hiring a private chef. If a chef says, um, I'll come cook dinner for your family for $500. Some people might think that's expensive, right? But what if that chef says instead, I help busy families who are exhausted, eating a takeout too often, and barely spending quality time together. I come into your home, prepare a healthy meal, save you the stress of planning, shopping, and cooking, and give your family an evening where you can actually sit down, connect, and enjoy each other again. Now the 500 feels differently. Why? Because now it is not just being compared to just dinner. Now it's being compared to the stress of figuring out food, the time it takes to plan and cook, the cost of unhealthy takeout, the guilt of not feeding your family well, and the value of a peaceful evening dinner together. Same price, different context, different perception. Or in business, someone might say, my coaching is $10,000. That can feel really heavy. But if they say, this is for entrepreneurs who are stuck at inconsistent income, stressed over months about cash, and losing time with their family because their business depends on them, I help them build a high value offer, simplify their sales process, create more consistent income so that they can buy back their time and build a business that actually supports their life. Now the investment is being compared to inconsistent income, lost time, stress, missed family moments, and the value of more freedom. That is the point here. The price does not change first. The perception of value changes first. Focus on the payoff, which is the value, not the payout, the investment. Again, focus on the payoff, the value, not the payout, the investment. And when the value becomes clear, price starts to feel easier to actually carry, right? So let me ask you this. Which part of offer positioning today do you think needs the most work in your business right now? Is it positioning your problem, positioning the payoff, positioning to the right person, positioning to clearly identify the path and process, or positioning the value, the price in context of the value? Drop it in the comment section if you which one you believe needs the most work in your business right now, right? And here's the big reframe. People do not buy because your offer is amazing in your head. They buy because the offer is clear in theirs, right? They buy because the offer is clear in theirs. That changes everything for you because once you understand that, you stop obsessing over what you want or what you meant, and you start focusing on what the buyer perceives, right? That is the ultimate positioning. You go back into your business and then you stop asking, how can I explain more? Right? And you start asking, is the problem clear? Is the payoff compelling? Is the buyer specific? Is the process believable? Is the value visible? That is when the offer starts feeling easier to buy. That is when the market stops feeling resistance. And that is when sales start moving with less friction. All right, let's get practical. After the slide, your assignment is very, very simple. Take one of your offers and write down these 5 things. What painful problem does this solve? What specific payoff does this create? Who is this offer really for? What is the process or the path? Why is the value greater than the price? Then ask yourself, if someone saw this offer for the very first time, would it feel easy to understand and easy to buy? If the answer is no, then that is your next fix. You stop assuming, by knowing this, you stop assuming the offer is obvious and you start positioning it intentionally, right? So here's our example problem. We help entrepreneurs who are stuck between 20K to 40K per month. Payoff, we help people create a high value offer. We show them how to attract consistent clients and build a 100K month business that sells, scales, and sets them free. Ideal buyer, experts making 20 to 40K per month who want to hit 100K months without burning out. Process. Step 1, identify your high value offer, create it. Step 2, Simplify your messaging so it attracts the right buyer. Step 3, generate leads because you got to have enough people to actually sell to. Step 4, convert consistently, show you how to make offers, how to get your really clearly identify what your law of averages is. Step 5, scale with leverage, how to build a team around you, virtual assistants and AI to implement so that you can delegate and automate your business. That's leverage, right? So that's our process. Value versus price. This program costs 30K. That's a 12-month program. But the client that actually says yes to this, the objective, the goal, the outcome is to help them generate seven-figure business without killing themselves in the process, right? Without burning out, without sacrificing their life, their relationships in the process, their family, right? Then what we want you to do once you really list out these 5 things, then read it as if you were the buyer, right? Does it feel clear? Does it feel desirable? Does it feel easy to say yes to, right? And if it's not, tweak your wording until the problem, the payoff, the buyer, the person, the process, the path, and the price context based on value are crystal clear. So my message today is very, very simple, my friends. The rich build riches because they know how to position their offer so it feels easy to buy. They do not just create offers, they frame value. They clarify the problem. They elevate the payoff. They define the person. They explain the process and path to get there, and they put price in context of value. That is what makes the right buyers move. Because when position gets stronger, clarity gets stronger, desire gets stronger, trust gets stronger, conversion gets stronger. That is how you stop making the market work hard to understand you and start making it easy for the right buyer to actually say yes. Yes. So definitely want to know what your biggest takeaway is from today. Was it really the problem, the payoff, the person, the process, your pricing according to value, right? Let us know in the comment section so we know how to actually deliver for you and figure out where your biggest problem, your biggest bottleneck actually is, okay? And if this message spoke to you and you actually know that it's time to make your offer feel easier to buy, drop position in the comments, position. And if you are ready to go deeper and learn how to position your offer, I am going to invite you to join us at our Dream Life, Dream Business Challenge. Inside the challenge, we'll help you get crystal clear on how to position your offer so that the right buyer sees it immediately, how to communicate value that resonates and converts, how to frame the problem, elevate the payoff, and reduce friction within your business, how to attract the right clients instead of chasing the wrong ones. Because the truth is, some entrepreneurs stay broke, not because their offers aren't valuable, but because the right buyers don't see them, feel them, or understand them. When you position your offer correctly, your message gets clearer, your marketing gets stronger, your sales get easier. So if you're ready to stop guessing and really start positioning your offers for real results, come join us, right? Come join us inside our Dream Life, Dream Business Challenge. The link will actually be in this video below, okay? So next live, we're going to actually build on this. And next live, we will actually be in Malaysia. So we leave actually tomorrow from Vietnam to Malaysia. So we'll actually be in Malaysia or Singapore, one of those, because they're right next to each other. So we'll be at one of those, either Malaysia or Singapore. We're going to build on this because once you know how to position your offer, the next question becomes, how do you actually use content to build authority, trust, and demand around that offer? How do you actually use content to build authority, trust, and demand around that offer? Next live, the title is Why Some People Stay Broke While Others Turn Content into Cash Flow. Why some people stay broke and while others turn content into cash flow. Because the truth is, content is not just about posting more. It's about building authority, building trust, and creating real demand for what you actually sell. So if today was about positioning the offer, next live is about using content to make the market lean in, right? To make the market lean in. You don't want to miss that live. And for those of you that are watching this and you're actually joining us at our challenge, we'll see you very, very soon. Other than that, my friends, we'll see you on the next live. Stay blessed. Have an amazing rest of the week. We'll see you soon.